In the crisp twilight of October, when leaves turn gold and branches sigh under the coming chill, the air seems to hum with anticipation. On October 31st, across towns and cities from Maine to California, children don costumes, families carve pumpkins, and neighborhoods echo with laughter and a little bit of mischief. This is Halloween in America. But the story of Halloween did not spring full-formed into its modern shape. It is a layered tale of ancient rites and immigrant rituals, of community change, commercial innovation, and cultural negotiation. To understand how Halloween in the United States came to look the way it does today, we must trace its journey from Celtic fields to suburban streets. The story begins long before pumpkins lit porches and trick-or-treat bags were filled. The ancient Celtic festival of Samhain marked the end of the harvest season and the onset of winter's summer's end in the Celtic calendar. On the night of Samhain, the Celts believed the boundary between the living and the dead grew thin and spirits might return. Bonfires burned, disguises were worn, and offerings were made to keep balance between worlds. With the spread of Christianity, the Church sought to absorb older traditions. In the 7th century, Pope Boniface IV established All Saints' Day on November 1st. The evening before October 31st became All Hallows' Eve, and over time, old and new beliefs intertwined. As centuries passed, the festival blended Christian observance with folklore and seasonal rituals. Immigrants carried fragments of these customs to new lands. When Europeans began settling North America, they brought harvest festivals, ghost stories, and superstition. But Halloween, as we know, it was still centuries away. In early colonial America, many Puritan communities rejected such celebrations. They viewed Halloween-like observances as too Catholic or too pagan. Still, some colonies, especially in the South and along the frontier, held autumn gatherings with ghost tales and games. These small, local traditions would later grow into something much larger. During the 19th century, immigration reshaped America. Millions of Irish and Scottish newcomers fleeing famine brought their folk customs guising, souling, and playing pranks in disguise. Their traditions mingled with American harvest parties, creating the early roots of Halloween as a public celebration. By the late 1800s, Halloween was shifting from isolated folklore to a recognized community event. Newspapers encouraged parties and games rather than mischief. Schools and towns began organizing gatherings with costumes, stories, and sweets. Halloween was evolving into a social ritual for the neighborhood rather than a private superstition. The carving of turnips in the Old World transformed into the carving of pumpkins in the New. Pumpkins were native, plentiful, and far easier to hollow and light. Gradually, the jack-o'-lantern became a glowing American symbol bright against the October dark, carrying the face of an ancient myth reborn on new soil. At the dawn of the 20th century, Halloween grew more structured. Neighborhood parties replaced vandalism, and children's games replaced drunken revelry. Costumes were homemade ghosts, witches, black cats, skeletons, all simple but effective. Communities embraced the idea of one night a year to play, pretend, and face the darkness with laughter. Trick-or-treating, the most iconic part of modern Halloween, has roots in the old European customs of souling and guising. Children once went door to door, asking for soul cakes in return for prayers for the dead. In America, that evolved into a cheerful exchange of candy for the promise of no tricks. By the 1920s and 1930s, trick-or-treating became a community-approved alternative to vandalism. It turned potential mischief into a ritual of generosity. The first printed use of the phrase trick or treat appeared around 1939, and by mid-century, it was firmly embedded in American culture. During the Great Depression and World War II, candy was scarce, and many families made costumes by hand. But after the war, prosperity and the baby boom fueled a new kind of Halloween. Suburban neighborhoods, filled with children, became perfect for door-to-door trick-or-treating on quiet, lamp-lit streets. By the 1950s, Halloween was a family-friendly holiday. Costumes were sold in stores, decorations filled shop windows, and candy companies discovered gold in miniature chocolate bars. For a single October night each year, the suburban landscape became a stage for imagination and community. The post-war years cemented Halloween as a children's holiday, but one infused with ancient echoes. The jack-o'-lantern, the witch, and the skeleton weren't just decorations. They were descendants of old fears dressed in new fun. America had turned old superstition into shared celebration. As the decades rolled on, television and film shaped the holiday's imagery. From cartoons and sitcoms to horror classics, Halloween seeped into popular culture. Haunted houses opened, costume contests spread, and the holiday's economy exploded. By the 1970s and 1980s, Halloween was a billion-dollar industry. Adults reclaimed the night too. Parties, parades, and costume balls turned Halloween into an all-ages event. In cities like New York, elaborate festivals and street parades celebrated creativity and transformation. The line between childhood play and adult performance blurred in a joyful, spooky carnival. Regional differences gave the holiday texture. In some towns, Beggar's Night or Mischief Night preceded Halloween. In others, church or community harvest festivals replaced it. But everywhere, the rhythm was the same: costumes, light, laughter, and the whisper that maybe, just maybe, the veil between worlds was thin again. Behind the candy and costumes lies deeper symbolism. Halloween has always been about transition, the dying of the year, the descent into winter, and the nearness of things unseen. Lighting a jack-o'-lantern on a porch still echoes the ancient impulse to guard against the dark and to honor what came before. Sociologists call Halloween a ritual of reversal. Children knock on strangers' doors and are rewarded for boldness. Adults play pretend, cross boundaries, and laugh at fear. For one evening, the rules bend, the shadows become safe, the strange becomes celebrated. Yet, as with any tradition, debates arise. Some criticize commercialization, others question cultural sensitivity in costumes. Safety concerns shape how cities schedule trick-or-treating. Still, the holiday endures adaptable, creative, and defiantly communal in a world that often feels divided. Every October, Americans spend billions on candy, costumes, and decor. Retailers plan months in advance. But beyond economics, Halloween thrives because it taps something primal: the need to face darkness together, to laugh at fear, to transform for a night, and then return to the light renewed. In small towns, porch lights signal welcome. In cities, apartment doors open to laughter. Across social lines, Halloween remains one of the few nights devoted to community contact, strangers exchanging smiles and sweets beneath autumn's fading glow. The holiday's endurance reflects America itself, a patchwork of borrowed traditions, reshaped by generations, lit by imagination. What began as Celtic fire in a distant field has become the glow of 1,000 porch lights across the United States. Each October 31st, as dusk falls and masks are donned, Americans participate in something both ancient and ever new. The laughter of children, the glow of candles, the scent of fallen leaves all weave together into the living ritual of Halloween. It is a night that remembers death but celebrates life. A night that belongs to ghosts and to families, to fear and to fun. When the final porch light goes dark and the last candy wrapper flutters away, Halloween fades, but its spirit waits quietly for the next turning of the year. If you're a fan of Halloween, please like this video and help support this channel by giving us a sub.